It's 7:07 in the trenches on the SFBN. Stay tuned as we go over highlights, stats, and analysis from all of high school football throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Good evening, SFBN Nation. I'm Richie Bleiweiss, welcoming you to another great episode here of In the Trenches on the SFBN. Thank you so much for joining us. And as you can see, I'm not too sure where Corey Sharp might have gone. I know Mike Palmer is here with us, but who could this mystery person be behind the portfolio? It's Ari Bluestein, CEO of SFBN. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Sure, thanks for having me. Glad to fill in for Corey tonight.
You know, Corey couldn't be here. We're sending him our best. We miss you, buddy. We hope that you get back here really soon. I'm not just saying that because Ari's making me uncomfortable here. No, I'm kidding. I'm only kidding. We're so excited to have Ari joining. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Ari.
Sure, my pleasure.
Before we begin, before we get to this great high school football action across Pennsylvania from this last week, as we've done each week throughout October, we want to spotlight another great breast cancer charity that happens throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Each of us on this panel and at this station has lost someone that we care for deeply thanks to this horrible disease. So we want to spotlight this week an organization called Living Beyond Breast Cancer. According to their mission statement, Living Beyond Breast Cancer provides programs and services to help people whose lives have been impacted by breast cancer. Their goal is to provide information, community, and support that you can trust, is easy for you to access, and respectful of your situation. Resources are carefully and frequently reviewed by some of the country's leading healthcare experts and informed by people living with breast cancer. To get more information on how you can help their cause, visit www.lbbc.org. Thank you so much to our SFBN Nation for all of their support as we've tried to help raise awareness for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But gentlemen, it's time to get to the action that we are here for, and that's high school football. We have to start with District 1 this week. It's been a big week as we get closer and closer to playoff time. But Suburban 1 League American Conference, it's a football showdown. Upper Moreland, the Golden Bears, taking on the Quakertown Panthers. 35-14. It is just a blowout here. Ari, I'm going to come to you for this one. You're leading off playing center field.
Yeah, man, I love it. You know, this was a game that I made a prediction for on Varsity Voice on Facebook Live last week, and I got the prediction right. I said Upper Moreland would win, and they just have a stellar running back in Caleb Mead. He's a 5'10 junior running back. He had 154 yards rushing on 7 carries. I didn't do the math on the yards per carry, but it's got to be ridiculous. I mean, 3 touchdowns out of those 7 carries. He had a 70-yarder, a 55-yarder, and a 6-yarder. So now you're looking at Upper Moreland. They're 7-0 overall, 4-0 in SOL American. They're number 2 in the District 1 5A rankings, right behind Springfield Delco. So you're talking about a 5A team that could really make some noise and make a run come District 1. And there was Sterling Barr, 20 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown. Another running back for Upper Moreland, and you're talking about probably one of the better 1-2 punches in District 1 5A, and you really need to run the ball in November, December. That's really the teams that do well in the playoffs, the teams that can run the ball.
You know, I want to go back to Caleb Mead for a minute here. Caleb Mead, to do the math, I'm thinking roughly, I'm going to put on my math teacher hat here, we're talking about 21 yards roughly per carry here. Mead, though, 5'10", 170 pounds, and he's a junior. That means that Upper Moreland has the opportunity to look forward to him coming back as a senior. You have to expect that by the time his senior year comes, he's going to put on 15 or 20 pounds. He may even give you another 2 inches of height. That's a running back that in District 1 you really need to be able to look at and count on as you move forward and potentially turn Upper Moreland into a team that you can count on throughout the state.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Upper Moreland, the Bears are really having a nice year. As we said, they're undefeated, and they're really going to make some noise. Like you said, Meade only only a junior. Then you've got Barr, a solid running back as well. And 20 carries for 82 yards, certainly nothing to sneeze at as well. And I always point to running the ball when it gets colder out, because those pass-happy offenses, you know that the hands get a little more frozen in the cold. You need to be able to run the ball. We saw that last year with Garnet Valley in the District 1 6A bracket. They run a triple option, basically no quarterback. And they went all the way to the District 1 6A championship.
I feel like more and more that we talk and we go through these teams, we talk stats, we talk analysis, it's almost as if there are so many teams in these different conferences where the running back, or potentially a fullback in a lot of these cases, really are your stars. The quarterbacks, we're seeing more and more quarterbacks that are only having 8, 9, 10 throws a game, yet you're still getting solid running backs. You don't really need your quarterback in so many of these games. It becomes a different sport almost.
Yeah, and it really depends on the offense, and I think Mike can speak to it as well, having played high school and college football. It really depends on the offense. If you're a run-heavy offense, obviously you're going to depend on the running backs. And in high school, you see more of that, especially with the smaller schools. There's only so many schools that have a top quarterback that's going like Division I or Division I AA. So I think obviously, like I said, the running backs are huge, and Mike can speak to that point about having such a big run-heavy offense in high school.
No, exactly. We see it here in Division, especially District 1. I mean, there's so many solid teams within, especially the American Conference and the Continental Conference we're going to cover soon. But, I mean, when you get this deep in October, and like you said, when the winter months start to come, you got to rely on the running game, because you're playing against teams that know how to stop the pass and know how to stop the run, and you got to rely on what you know best, and that is running the ball. And we see it's not a high-scoring game, 35-14, and usually you see the better teams pull out with kids like Caleb running for over, what do you have, 170 yards?
154, yeah.
154. Mm-hmm. That's just what you see in times like this, especially when you're playing against rival teams and teams that you match up with every single year. You really have to ground and pound them to pull out the win, and that's what we see in there for Upper Moreland.
Mm-hmm. We talk a lot about Caleb Meade. We talk about about Upper Moreland. Quakertown is no team to sneeze at, though. I'm not going to get into. I don't want to get into a lot of the stats and everything with Quakertown necessarily, but I do want to just point out they are ranked number 8 in the state. So, or excuse me, not in the state, but ranked number 1 in District 1 6A. They're not a team that was an easy win for Upper Moreland here.
No, this was one of the top games of the week featured by the Philadelphia Inquirer. Quakertown was number 8 in District 1 6A. They've dropped to number 13 because of the loss. So
and that's fair. That's fair.
Totally fair. And you lose to a 5A team, so it kind of like hits your rankings a little bit. Upper Moreland's a great team, but you did lose to a 5A team. So they're in danger of falling out of the top 16. That makes their next game against Plymouth Whitemarsh. They have a bye this coming week. They're going to play PW, a team that's usually pretty good, but they're 1-6 this year. You take care of business against PW, they should be good to make the District 1 6A bracket.
Well, let's look upcoming games for these two. I'm going to play off of what I already just said here. We're going to stay with District 1 in a moment, but Upper Moreland, they moved to 7-0 on the season, 4-0 in the conference. Next, they have an away conference game hitting the road. Wissahickon, Friday, October 20th, 7 p.m. As you just mentioned, Quakertown has PW coming up next. That's a road game for them. They're 6-2 overall, 4-1 in the conference. Friday, October 27th at 7 p.m. for them. I want to stay with District 1. New Hope Solebury Lions put a big hurting, a ferocious hurting, we can say, on Springfield, Montgomery Township. Spartans, Coach Chris Shelley there. Lions beat the Spartans 49-0.
Well, taking a look at Springfield Monco, they didn't even have a program last year, so let's just be glad they're back in the mix here. But you're taking a look at some of the highlights here on Facebook Live, and New Hope Solebury, that's Jesse Capriati with a beautiful run right there. I mean, the Lions, they are one of the top teams in 3A in this area, and this right here was one of the opportunities that the Spartans had early on, and they fumble it right near the goal line. But Nick Garitano, the quarterback for New Hope Solebury, you look at this, slinging it way down the field, going the opposite end of the field to Jesse Capriati, the senior running back, and he was just phenomenal all night. But, Garitano, the thing that really impresses me about him is the ball fakes. As we see another fumble here by Springfield Monco. The ball fakes here, and you can see, look at that fake. Man, faked out our cameraman. And there goes, that's Morgan Shadle going in for the touchdown, and even here on the broken play. But Nick Garitano is a guy that can carry New Hope Solebury into the playoffs. They're in 3A, so the way the 3A bracket works, it's a combination District 1, District 12 bracket. You're going to have a team from the pub, and you see another big fake right here by Garitano. Look at him going off and running down the far side. they're going to have to play Future, School of the Future from the Pub, or Conwell Egan, who they lost to early in the year from the PCL. So it's not going to be easy in the playoffs, but I think Garetano can certainly lead them there.
Well, and we talked before about quarterbacks and the impact that they really have on the games. Garetano goes 6 for 12, 187 yards, but 3 big rushes, gets 64 yards there and a TD on a rush. You talk about Capriati, 11 carries, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns. His brother Joey, freshman there, he adds 3 carries for 30 yards and a TD. This is just an easy game for New Hope Solebury here. Just really dominating at every single point. And when you can't capitalize on goal line offense like we looked at with Springfield, I just don't know that you're really going to be able to survive against teams like New Hope Solebury.
Especially a revamped program that hasn't been established in the last couple of years. I mean, when you're trying to beat a good team in New Hope Solebury, you gotta finish those type of goal line opportunities. And I mean, New Hope Solebury is running a basic offense. They're not doing anything special, but their quarterback is really making it look like something special because of his ball fakes, his bootlegs, ability to hide the ball. And I mean, you play that triple option offense and you utilize it correctly, and then you rely on your defense to just shut them down. That's ball control, and that's what New Hope Solebury wants to take into the playoffs.
Yeah, the defense has been really good for New Hope Solebury. They only really give up a lot of points to Conwell Egan, who they're probably going to see in the playoffs. So they haven't really been tested since that first game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that combination D1, D12, 3A bracket.
Everything gets so exciting right around this time as we head towards, I understand we're still a week or two away from Halloween. But as Thanksgiving really approaches, it's really when everything just picks up for us.
Yeah, I know. The playoffs are coming up. We're starting to look at the rankings, and District 1 especially. The top 16 make it from 6A and 5A, and everybody's trying to get in that final spot. And even for the ones higher up, they're trying to get those home games. They're trying to get into the top 8 and even the top 4.
Absolutely. Suddenly you're right. The rankings really are becoming important. The records overall here. New Hope Solebury head coach Jim DiTullio. They're now 7-1, 5-0 in the conference. That can only help them right there. They look to keep winning with an away conference game here at Lower Moreland, Huntington Valley. That's going to be Saturday the 21st at 1 p.m. Springfield and Chris Shelley going to 2-5 overall, 1-2 in their conference. Don't see a lot.
That's 2 more wins than they had last year, though.
That is fair.
They didn't even play.
So we call that an improvement here on the show.
That is.
By next year, we'll maybe be talking about them as we get to playoff time. They've got an away non-conference game at Morrisville. That's Friday the 20th at 7 o'clock. Mike, I'm going to come to you. We are staying with District 1, but we have a big Suburban 1 League Continental Conference game. That's this past Friday night. Central Bucks South, the Titans, holding off Central Bucks West. Go for it.
Especially now, we're in October. Every game we are covering is a huge game. And this game, obviously, CB West for CB South, they have the same name in their school. And covering this game has just been exciting because I played against CB West when I was in high school. And going to their field is just a great atmosphere to play. And once again, this game ended 21-20, a 1-point game between heated rivals. And both of them looking for a win, especially CB West, because now they're 1-3 in the conference, but they're 5-3 overall. So I don't know how that's going to help them, but their coach is really good at scheduling games where they can get those victories to sneak into the playoffs. But once again, CB South proves to me and all of us here at SFBN that they're a team to watch because this, as we said, this District 1, either it's American or Continental Conference, any team can come out of that at any given time. And CB South is looking to keep pushing and working towards that goal in order to beat those Neshaminy or Penn Ridge or a team like that. And once again, CB South improves to 6-2 and 3-1 in the conference, and they're looking to make a push towards the playoff run and maybe a state title in District 1.
Go ahead. And you mentioned the playoff standings. It's interesting. CB South is 10, CB West is 11. They're right next to each other, even though CB South gets the win, separated by 1 place and separated by 1 point in the game. So these teams do have to still finish strong to finish in the top 16. They don't have such an easy schedule, but they do have to finish up strong here.
Well, and I think when you talk about this, whether you're talking about 10 or 11 or whether you're just talking about the Central Bucks rivalry, just sharing that Central Bucks name, sharing the close proximity that you have, I really think that's what's going to wake people up. No matter whether or not it's 10 or 11, when you have a Central Bucks rivalry going on within the area, I think that wakes people up right there and certainly wakes these players up.
Well, these type of games, it ended on a blocked field goal to end the game, and CB South snuck one out against their rival. But like we said, one of these teams, they both have to still play Quakertown, and Quakertown's ranked 13th in the District 1 standing. So, I mean, it's not over yet for no teams in the District 1, but CB South definitely improved their chances a little bit more with that victory over CB West.
Well, and CB South goes to 6-2 overall. They go to 3-1 in the conference. They have an away conference game at Penridge. That certainly is no cakewalk there for them. That's Friday the 20th at 7 p.m. West, they go to 5-3 overall. Tough turn for them. 1-3 in the conference. Big rivalry game coming up, as we mentioned, those rivalry games. Central Bucks, big rivalry game for them, going against CB East. So 2 CB schools back-to-back. That'll be the 21st at 1 p.m. Well, we are out of District 1 right now. It's time to move on to District 2. Mike, I'm going to stay with you. We are going to go to Crispin Field. Berwick Bulldogs hand a thrilling defeat to the Wyoming Valley West Spartans, 44-22. Talk to me.
I mean, I can't believe we're already in the middle of October. I covered this game on our very first episode. I mean, because I went to school up in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area, and this is right in the heart of the Berwick and Wyoming Valley West. I mean, that's right across the Market Street Bridge, Wyoming Valley West. And I wanted to cover this game from the very start. I highlighted this game. I marked it on my schedule, and it's already here. Berwick pulls it out, 44-22. But it wasn't that close on the scoreboard doesn't lie, because to put the game away, in games like this, you need to replace. Obviously, your star player. He came out and showed what he can do.
Damon Beckhorn is just a monster in this game.
He's not their go-to guy. Their running back, Evan Klingler, actually, he did what they needed him to do. But in these type of games, you need another guy to step up, and that's what Beckhorn did for the Berwick Bulldogs, improving them to 7-1 and 5-0 in District 2 conference. But on 4th and 9. Once again, Berwick runs a very versatile offense where it's spread, triple option at the same time, kind of like Widener's offense where they run spread, but it's still a triple option based type of deal. And 4th and 9, the kid takes a toss, 28 yards for a touchdown. I mean, that's got to hurt Wyoming Valley West. I'm sure it did. And Beckhorn on the next on Wyoming Valley West possession takes a fumble, scoop and score to seal the game. I mean, Wyoming Valley West almost snuck one out against Berwick. A huge rivalry game. Wyoming Valley West won the last 3. I'm sure they wanted to win this one again, but Berwick snuck it out because of Beckhorn's efforts on 4th and 9 and that scoop and score.
Well, let's look at Beckhorn. He recovers a fumble, catches 3 passes for 48 yards, runs the Wildcat formation for 40 more yards, has another touchdown, unfortunately nullified by a penalty here. So it's tough to count it, but we still have to look at it here as a fair point of analysis. Gets 2 late touchdowns, 24 seconds apart. Courtesy of TimesLeader.com, Berwick coach Frank Sheptock on Beckhorn says he's a difference maker. We're highlighting him. He's just a tremendous athlete. You see him do it in so many ways. I don't know how many times he's made a tackle for a loss on defense. If you're playing us right now, Damon Beckhorn on defense is jumping off the field. He can basically take over a game. And I think that's what we saw here.
No, we all expected a defensive battle between these two teams, but once again, they both of these teams know how to put up points. And we got to credit Wyoming Valley West's defense as well, because a lot of those guys are committed. One of their guys committed to UCLA in the beginning of the season when we covered on the preview show. They had 5 sacks and a block punt for a safety in this opening of the second quarter. So, I mean, Wyoming Valley West was right in the game. But those kind of plays where players like Beckhorn step up and that's the difference maker in a rivalry game.
Well, West is about to come back. They get within 8. They're trying to close the gap. 5 sacks and a fumble recovery, but they just can't capitalize. And, we talk about it so much, but when you get to this point of the year, if you have opportunities, you get those extra chances, you get those fumble recoveries, you cannot let them slip through your fingers.
And I think that's why we're seeing Wyoming Valley West at 2-6 as opposed to Berwick 7-1, because good teams will capitalize on those opportunities. And just it hasn't gone that way for Wyoming Valley West this year. And Berwick, they have capitalized on their opportunities, and that's why they're probably the top team out of District 2 in 4A classification.
Well, the thing is, they answered that block safety field punt with a 93-yard kickoff return, and that's by their starting running back, Evan Klingler. So when you have a guy that can just take over the ball game, and then a guy like Beckhorn to really back that up, those two-headed monsters driving you into the playoff push will really help you out. I mean, those type of plays, are huge for teams that are looking for district championships like the Berwick Bulldogs, because they're looking to get back.
Well, this game does break a 3-year losing streak for the Bulldogs. Coming up, as already had mentioned, Berwick Bulldogs go to 7-1 overall, 5-0 in the conference. They've got a home non-conference game coming up versus Lake Lemon Friday, October 20th at 7 p.m. Wyoming Valley West. As you talked about, rough season for them so far. 2-6 overall, 1-1 in the conference. They have an away non-conference game against Crestwood that's out in Mountaintop PA. I was just there a week ago. It's beautiful there. It's gorgeous. That's Friday, October 20th at 7 p.m. It is time to go cross district. We go District 3, District 4 in this one. In their previous meeting, I want to preface that with this. Previous meeting, District 3 Newport routs District 4 Line Mountain 37-0. Things don't go nearly this well this time. They're nearly that well this time. Line Mountain Eagles winning this one 27-14 over the Newport Buffaloes.
I mean, you look at undefeated teams sometimes and you're like, dang, when are they going to lose? Or teams that haven't got a win yet, like the New York Giants yesterday, like, when are they going to get a win? And that's what happened here with Newport, because they're undefeated. They figured that they blew out Line Mountain last year. They figured they had it in the bag, but Line Mountain came out to play, and they controlled the clock with 30 minutes of time of possession. When you got that type of control, it's tough to make a comeback, and Newport was just struggling to make a comeback the whole game, and Line Mountain controlled the clock, as we've seen with the time of possession, and once again, we're motivated to get this win and improve to 6-2, because that's a District 3 and 4 clash, and who knows what could happen with these two teams. They might see each other again, because in the playoffs with small districts, they might have to combine some of these districts to see a good matchup. This is a poor showing. You have two quarterbacks, two fairly decent teams, I think we can call them, at 7-1 and 6-2. I think we can call them fairly decent. But you have two bad showings from the quarterbacks here. Newport quarterback Nickerbeach, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, goes 4 for 20 for 37 yards. No touchdowns, 2 INTs. Great rushing night, though. But Line Mountain quarterback Evan Erb, slightly better, 10 for 29 on the night, 145 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Poor showing from quarterbacks here. We continue. This is now the third game tonight we've talked about where we're seeing poor showings from quarterbacks. Well, a lot of these offenses want the quarterbacks to throw on the run and not set their feet. So quarterbacks at a young age, when you're rolling out, running the triple option, or just having the ball in your hands all game, obviously because you're quarterback, but it's a different story when the quarterback's expected to make plays outside the pocket, and young kids make mistakes at quarterback position. I'm sure that they had some bootleg plays he tried to throw across the field. That's how the interceptions happen. But once again, if you want to stay undefeated, you can't lose the turnover battle, nor can you have your quarterback throw for those type of numbers.
Line Mountain, it's important. Definitely want to look at them. Coming off of a decent game, not horrible for them. Line Mountain key stats. Brendan Krager, 4 receptions, 78 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Brevin Dirk, Tyler Boyer also get 3 receptions and each go in for a touchdown. This is not this is a tough game. This is not a game either team should be really upset at with themselves. Upcoming for these two, with the loss, Newport Buffaloes go to 7-1 overall, all of those being conference games. They have an away conference game coming up against Dubois on Friday, October 20th at 7 p.m. Line Mountain, Coach Brandon Carson, they take this win. They go to 6-2 overall, 5-2 in their conference. They have an away conference game at Juniata out in Mifflintown, PA, Friday, October 20th, 7 p.m. When we come back, we're going to go to District 4, South Williamsport Mounties, hand Central Columbia Blue Jays a tough loss. That's when we come back to In the Trenches, right here on the SFBN.
Hi, I'm Tommy Green, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. When I was in high school, it was very important to me to show scouts what I could do. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the Sports Fan Base Network. If you're a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY-EASY.
Welcome back to In the Trenches. Thank you so much for staying with us. I want to talk to Ari here. South Williamsport capturing the HAC 3 title with this win.
Well, you know what's interesting about this game is Williamsport is really known for their offense this year. In fact, they average 45.5 points per game on the season. In this one, they only scored 28. But that's not the big story. It was the South Williamsport defense that really made a huge stand in this one. 3 straight stops at the 1 yard line, and Central Columbia couldn't punch it in from 1 yard out. That was in the first quarter when the game was still close, and I think the momentum shifted right to South Williamsport, and their offense took over from there. Second half, they really did a great job. Hunter Finn had 2 touchdown catches. Gideon Green, 279 yards rushing and a couple of touchdowns. And, Central Columbia, after that goal line stand, just could not get their offense going, and South Williamsport just took it over.
There was one great thing that came out of this from South's offense, and I loved reading this, what they call the Novocaine offense. Did you hear about this? The Novocaine offense. 200-plus yards, 21 points in the second half. Reason why we call it the Novocaine offense. Just give it time. It always works. I loved reading that, and I said I have to put this in my notes here. Talk about South Williamsport defense, which again, you point out, this really is the highlight for them. Usually offense. Now this week we shift to defense. We have to look at the defensive ends. Griffin Metzger, Ben Johnson, key factors, spending lots of time in Central's backfield in this one.
Yeah, and that really was the key there for South Williamsport, and that's really what shows you a complete team. They are very good on the offensive side of the ball. We know that because they average 45.5 points per game, that includes the 28 points they put up, so their average went down a little bit after this game. Now we've seen the defense against a very good Central Columbia team, and I love that 2A classification. Both of these teams are in the 2A classification in District 4, along with Southern Columbia, a team that I know you guys have talked a lot about on this show. So these 3 teams, don't mess around with these 3 teams. I could see any of these 3 teams making a run in the 2A classification come time for states.
The Blue Jays here, Central Columbia Blue Jays, they go one drive, and this should really be a big highlight for the game. They have a drive here, 79 yards, 4 first downs, no points come out of it. That's the kind of thing you just can't have. When you take that much time off the clock, as you know that they did, it's just unfortunate here. South coach Chris Eisworth, courtesy of the Sun Gazette, goal line stand we were really proud of because they're a big, imposing team. We work extremely hard in training the guys to play one down at a time. I think this is just a rough game for this team here. Mounties built 21-3 lead going into the fourth quarter. Blue Jays only points on a 41-yard field goal by Brendan Gregory in this one.
Yeah, and you talked about it. I mean, it was a rough game for that Central Columbia team. You talked about that one drive. That's where they got stuffed at the goal line. So, kudos to South Williamsport and their defense for making the stop because, again, that was the key moment in the game. Again, Central Columbia, they're a very good team, and they have a really good big game, which I think you'll mention in a moment, coming up next week. But, again, do not count out Central Columbia at this point. It's just a little bump in the road. They could definitely bounce back, but I love what I'm seeing from South Williamsport in terms of being a complete team on both sides of the ball.
Well, both teams now move to 7-1 overall. Central Columbia 3-1 in their conference. Next, they have a non-conference game against Southern Columbia area. That's Friday, October 20th at 7. South Williamsport now 5-0 in the conference. They have an away non-conference game at Muncie. That's Friday, October 20th, also at 7. District 6. Greater Johnstown, the Trojans, they win Friday's home conference game against Bishop McCourt, the Crushers, 23-15. Ari, I'll come to you with this one.
Well, you take a look at this game, the District 6, a decent district here, and Greater Johnstown gets the win. Now, really not a lot going on until we get to the fourth quarter. It was 10-7 going into the fourth quarter. Austin Barber, the senior quarterback for Johnstown, hits his senior wide receiver Elijah Fields on a beautiful touchdown pass, made it 16-7, and then Barber takes it in himself on a 9-yard touchdown run with a few minutes left to make it 23-7. And Bishop McCourt got a late touchdown and a 2-point conversion with 36 seconds remaining. That ended up being the final score, but just a little bit too late there for Bishop McCourt. And Johnstown, Greater Johnstown, such a good team, but they are playing coming up. And again, you'll mention it, Richie, but Bishop Guilfoyle is the next one up, defending Class A state champs.
For sure, and I mean the stats on this one were just incredible here. First downs for Greater Johnstown, winning that battle 15-9. Penalties, Bishop McCourt with 8, Greater Johnstown with 5. The yardage, though, on these penalties, those 8 penalties average 11 yards each, going at 88 total yards, 33 yards for Greater Johnstown. And the possession time really is pretty on par here. 25.5 minutes for Bishop McCourt, 22 minutes for Greater Johnstown. So this isn't really a time of possession battle here. This was just one of those interesting games.
Yeah, I think Bishop McCourt made more mistakes, as you mentioned, 8 penalties for 88 yards. Penalties will always kill you. And it really, this was a very close game, as the stats would indicate. Very close game, 10-7 going into the fourth quarter. And it was just Austin Barber, the quarterback for Greater Johnstown. See, this time it was a quarterback.
We've been waiting.
I know, we've had a couple. We had the New Hope Soulbury quarterback, and now we have the Johnstown quarterback. But Austin Barber really took over. Hit the big, long bomb pass to Elijah Fields, and that got him going, and that pretty much ended it right there.
I'm glad to see that the quarterback position is alive and well somewhere in high school football in PA. Bishop McCourt now 6-2 overall in the conference. They've got an away conference game at Central Columbia. That's coming up out in Edensburg, PA. That's this Friday, October 20th at 7. Greater Johnstown goes to 7-1 overall. They're 6-1 in the conference. They have a home conference game versus, and you just mentioned it before, Bishop Guilfoyle. That's out in Altoona, PA. Friday, October 20th, 7 o'clock. Let's stay with District 6. Let's come on to this side of the table here. Let's talk to Mike. The running game is in full effect here. Home team, Portage Mustangs, defeat Shade Panthers in a game that I would say was a little high scoring, 60-46.
Yeah, well, Portage versus Shade, I mean, not a lot of people heard of these two high schools, so we're going to talk about them right now. We're going to talk about Zach Wiggins, the running back for Portage. I mean, we just mentioned quarterbacks and how important they are, but in high school, man, you got to have a great running back, and this is what Zach Wiggins did. I was looking at the stats earlier, and I kind of got confused that I thought Portage, this was their whole season stats, and I was like, no, I thought I read this right, because Wiggins had 28 carries, 265 yards for 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's like a 100-point fantasy game, PPR standard league. That's unbelievable, and Portage advances to 7-1. They're looking really good. Shade, they put up 46. They're a 3-5 team, so this District 6, I mean, a lot of things could happen. Portage might be able to sneak one out there for the championship, but go back to their stats. Total carries, 53 carries, 479 yards, and 8 touchdowns rushing for Portage. I mean, with those type of numbers, one-dimensional, when you advance to the playoffs, how are you going to switch up your scheme when the teams know you're just going to run the ball 35 times a game? Portage, first time covering them all year, I think all of us, and once again, very impressive. I mean, Zach Wiggins, shout out to you, 6 touchdowns. That's just a huge game for Portage, beating Shade. And once again, 8 rushing touchdowns in one game. I thought that was their whole season stats when I first looked at it.
Well, let's give credit where it's due. We've been ripping on quarterbacks a little bit here throughout the state. Let's give credit where it's due. Let's talk about the Shade Panthers quarterback, Brad Fife. 397 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns. He goes 75% completion, 30 for 40 on passing attempts.
Yeah, it's a tale of two teams there, Rich. We've seen 479 yards rushing total for Portage, and then you look at those numbers from Shade. I mean, I guess Shade's defense was just not enough because they put up the points in order to do that. But that's such a disappointing thing when you look at the offense putting up so much numbers and the defensive side not holding up to par with that and not competing with the Portage running game.
I love listening to Gary Gauss, and he gives this great quote, courtesy of the Altoona Mirror. Thank you so much to Altoona Mirror. You have to be able to run the ball. You just have to. And he's referring, of course, to Zach Wiggins in this case. But he doesn't mention Zach Wiggins. He says, our line did a great job blocking. They really did. He doesn't give the shout to Waynes, he gives the shout to the line. And I love that because your line is they're not the ones that are going to get the credit in this case. It really is going to go to your running back.
Yeah, and again, this is something that Mike can speak to more, but you have a great running back. Your running back only goes so far if you have no offensive line. It really comes from the push up front, from, you run in between the tackles, the guards and the tackles in the center need to create that hole. They also need to seal the edge on the outside. So the offensive line never gets enough credit, especially in high school football where you don't have stats for like pancakes and those type of things that they have in the NFL. So, I love it that he credited the offensive line. And to go back to Shade with passing the ball, they were actually winning at halftime. And really just Portage just took over in the second half of their run game.
Pancakes sound good right about now. Do we have any at the studio? Do we have any at the studio?
The thing is, when you're a tale of two teams, when Shade's throwing the ball a massive amount, the thing is, their defense goes right back onto the field after Shade scoring that quick spread offense up tempo. And once again, Portage took full advantage, went into the halftime like, all right, if they want to score in 2 minutes, we're going to slow the ball down, give it to our best guy in Wiggins, and let him score 6 touchdowns.
Well, Shade was up by 2. They go into the half up 32-30.
Right. I mean, that's what good coaches do. Good teams. Portage 7-1. They make halftime adjustments. They're like, all right, Shade wants to throw the ball all day long and have scored quickly. We're going to flip the script on them, and that's exactly what Portage did. That's what good teams do. They flip the script on them at halftime, and once again, Portage comes out with the win, 60-46.
Well, and Don Fife even mentions, he said, I told the team before the game started, the first team to 50 is going to win this game. The kids thought I was joking. No, he's serious. First team to 50 here really has that opportunity. He said they were the first one to 50 and they won, but our guys battled. So giving credit where it's due. Coming up for these teams, Portage Mustangs, they go to 7-1 overall and in the conference. They stay in the conference. They have an away conference game at Ferndale. That's Saturday, October 21st at 1 p.m., an afternoon game for them. Shade Panthers, tough year for them. They go to 3-5 overall and in the conference this season. They have a home conference game versus Conemaugh Township. Am I pronouncing Conemaugh? Conemaugh? I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with Conemaugh Township. We've never mentioned them on the show before, so I'll go with Conemaugh Township. That's Thursday, October 19th. That's a 7 o'clock Thursday game. Let's go to District 7. Bell Vernon Leopards beat the undefeated Thomas Jefferson Jaguars 21-17 at James Wire Stadium. Allows Bell Vernon to carry out their proud tradition, ringing the victory bell after the win. Mike, I'll come to you on this one.
Well, I'm going to go local comparison here for everybody who's watching at home. Thomas Jefferson was the most feared team until Vernon buckled down and beat them. But Thomas Jefferson is comparable to the George Washington Eagles early 2000 era or the Emotep from 2008 on era, because Thomas Jefferson is one of the most feared teams in District 7 because 9 perfect regular seasons out of 15 under Coach Bill Churpak. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And 4 of the perfect seasons were the last 5 seasons. And the team that ruined that usually is Bell Vernon. They've ruined it the last 3 seasons, their perfect season. So, once again, Thomas Jefferson, the most feared team in District 7. They're just a great overall team, offense, defense, special teams. But once again, Bell Vernon's home field advantage, their nickname is called the Beach, and that's what they wanted to defend here. And that's exactly what they did with a huge win, once again, against one of the most feared teams in District 7. However, they lost Bell Vernon lost to Thomas Jefferson 55-0 last year. And then you flip the script and you turn around and they get the win 21-17. That's just how crazy high school football goes. You lose some guys, it's hard to replace them. And after a 55-0 loss, you come back and get the victory at home, defend the home turf, and once again, ruin Thomas Jefferson's perfect season once again.
Well, let's take a look at Bell Vernon here. Bell Vernon quarterback Jared Hartman. Jared Hartman gets a beating in this game. He takes 8 sacks, 17 plays of negative yardage through this game. And those just aren't stats that you can really look at and win with generally.
Well, I mean, he's relying on his defense because Thomas Jefferson's defense only let up 20 points total in the whole entire year, and they let up 21 this week. So, I mean, when you get used to just having your defense so trustworthy and you know that you can trust them, as a quarterback, you kind of sit back and you're like, oh, all right, I can play a conservative game here, not really let loose. Then again, it snuck up on them here, and Bell Vernon came to play, and that's what they did because Thomas Jefferson only letting up 21 points the entire season.
Well, and the Jaguars entered the game as the Post-Gazette's number 1 ranked WPIAL 4A team. They were number 4 in the state, but 6 fumbles, 2 of which go lost, 2 of which turn over to the other team, and as we see here, fumbles, interceptions, it becomes the key to the game.
No, this is just one of those games, to be honest with you, Richie, because Bell Vernon and Thomas Jefferson, they'll see each other again, and it's going to be another great matchup because when Thomas Jefferson let their defensive ends let loose, they had 6 sacks, and Noah Palmer, shout out to his last name, 3 sacks on the day. Great last name. But anyway, he had 3 sacks on the day, and when Thomas Jefferson can play their defense to the max level, it's just they got caught off guard here at the home and struggling to find that perfect season.
Well, you have a better chance with Palmer than Bleiweiss. Ari?
There are so many good 4A teams, and Thomas Jefferson is one of the best. I mean, you take a look, Imhotep, you mentioned them, they're a 4A team. Cathedral Prep in Erie, they're a 4A team. We talked about Berwick, they're a 4A team. So most of the time, the 6A and 5A teams are the ones that get the love. But I'm glad that we talked about a team other than Pine Richland from District 7, because Pine Richland, obviously, one of the best teams in the state, but they're in 6A. Thomas Jefferson, they're in 4A. So I am really excited to see the 4A bracket and how that plays out because you've got teams all across the state that really can play some football.
Well, we've got bracket analysis going to be coming your way right here on In the Trenches in the coming weeks as we get closer to that playoff time. And I'm so excited to start breaking down these brackets. Upcoming for these two teams, Bell Vernon stays hot. They stay 7-0 overall and in the conference. They have an away conference game at West Mifflin. That's Friday, October 20th, 7:30 time for them. Thomas Jefferson, ranked number 21 in the state. Don't know how that's going to look once these rankings come out. They lose the perfect record here, though. They moved to 6-1 overall, 5-1 in the conference here. They've got an away conference game. It's certainly going to be a big one for them. Laurel Highlands out in Uniontown, PA, Friday the 20th. That's at 7:30. It is a wet and rainy night in District 11 as the Jim Thorpe Olympians, they get a tight game here. Tamaqua Blue Raiders 30-26. Ari, I'll come to you here.
First off, gotta love the mascot for Jim Thorpe, the Olympians. I mean, it's perfect, right? I mean, it's Jim Thorpe. He's an Olympian. So I love that. A shout out to that first off. Jim Thorpe, always a very competitive program. And you take a look at this game. This was just back and forth all night long. Jim Thorpe had the early 12-0 lead. Tamaqua actually had a touchdown with less than a minute to go going into the break. So it was 12-6 at halftime. Jim Thorpe, 26-yard rushing TD. Make it 18-6. Tamaqua comes right back. They score a touchdown in the third. And then to start the fourth quarter, they take a 19-18 lead on a touchdown and an extra point. Then Nick Rosahawk, a 50-yard touchdown pass to retake the lead. Tamaqua takes it back. And then Rosahawk again hits his receiver on a Hail Mary. I mean, the Hail Mary, one of the most fun plays in football to watch. That was a game winner when they were behind by 2 to make it the final score 30-26. And Rosahawk, we're talking about, we're hating on quarterbacks. I seem to be getting all the good quarterbacks here, Richie and Mike. I had the New Hope quarterback, I had the Johnstown quarterback. Now I got the Jim Thorpe quarterback. Rosahawk finishing with 257 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, and of course the big Hail Mary to win it at the end. I mean, this was just a classic, thrilling game here in District 11.
Could it have been a more thrilling Hail Mary on a walk-off victory? St. Hill says after the game, I honestly don't know how I came up with the ball.
Right, that's the running back, they caught the ball.
Fantastic. Yeah. I kind of caught it on my shoulder, and I just brought it in. I love trying to get to an analysis of it when you just don't know how it actually happened. Rosahawk, again, 257 yards. 4 touchdowns, just 1 interception on the game. St. Hill rushes for 102 yards, 3 receptions for 106 yards. It's just a fascinating game.
It really is. And you take a look at St. Hill, who's the one who caught that Hail Mary. He has over 100 yards rushing and over 100 yards receiving. That is really a phenomenal game for him. And you take a look at both of these teams, Jim Thorpe and Tamaqua. They're both in 3A in District 11. There are some really good teams in 3A in District 11, including undefeated Palisades, which is a school that's actually not too far from here, from the Philadelphia area. Notre Dame Green Pond is the team that won this 3A classification last year. They made it all the way to the state semifinals, and they're in the mix too. So again, I love talking about playoffs. You can see I'm talking about all the classifications. I just love it. We're getting so close. I can't wait to break down the brackets, whether it's here on Varsity Voice. But you take a look at Jim Thorpe and Tamaqua, they're both in the mix. So it should be an exciting finish to the season in 3A for District 11.
Well, we're going to take a look at what's coming up as we wipe the drool off of Ari's chin here as he gets ready for the playoffs. Jim Thorpe Olympians staying hot. They're 8-0 overall. They're 3-0 in the conference. They go back home. They got a conference game versus Pottsville Friday the 20th at 7. Tamaqua Blue Raiders, 5-3 overall, 1-3 in the conference. Looking like a tough season for them. They go on the road. They're going to be at North Schuylkill, Ashland, PA. Yes, I said Schuylkill. That's because I'm from Pennsylvania and I understand it. From Friday, October 20th, 7 p.m. matchup. We are going to be breaking down District 12 before we wrap up, but stay tuned. We'll get to that in a minute here on In the Trenches.
Hi, I'm Marty Bystrom, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. In my experience in Major League Baseball, I know how important it is for high school athletes to gain exposure. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the sports fan-based network. If you are a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY-EASY.
Pennsylvania is a big state, and there's great high school football action happening each week to discuss.
Let's deep. Got a man. Touchdown.
Join me, Richie Bleiweiss, and my fellow analysts, Corey Sharp and Mike Palmer, on In the Trenches on the Sports Fan Base Network. In the Trenches, the only show dedicated to all 12 PIAA districts in Pennsylvania, coming to you every Monday live on Facebook. Tune in for information, stats, analysis, and some great previews and predictions. Be sure to submit questions and comments using hashtag #InTheTrenches or comment live during the show. So be sure to watch In the Trenches on the SFBN for all you need to know about high school football in the Keystone State. I'm Richie Bleiweiss, reminding you, stay classy and be good to each other. We are going to go to an exciting game as we're coming back to you on In the Trenches on the SFBN. It's time to look at District 12. We're going to talk about the Lasalle Explorers and Roman Catholic. Now, Mike, I'm going to look at you on this one to start off. Lasalle wins 17-16 over Roman Catholic in their last meeting. Lasalle Explorers win this game handily, though, 42-7.
Well, Richie, a classic Lasalle Explorer win here. They're up 42 at half, and the final score wound up being 42-17. And I mean, it's just, the reason I wanted to cover this game is because Roman Catholic, you figure they're one of the best teams growing up in early 2000s. You have Will Fuller, Michael Keir, quarterback at California, PA. And once again, this is one of the worst seasons for Roman Catholic, and you got to feel for them guys. The first Catholic school ever built in Philadelphia. And I just feel for Roman Catholic, 1-6, terrible season, and hopefully they can bounce back. Like you said, last year they only lost to LaSalle at by 1 point. But Ari said it best in the beginning of the show. LaSalle was on a down year. Roman graduating their quarterback. I mean, it's tough to replace athletes like that, especially in Roman when there's so much other teams right nearby. You got Emotep right down the street. You got St. Joe's Prep around the corner. I mean, the recruiting is just so tough for Roman because they're such a basketball program. But, I mean, tough loss, tough season for Roman. Hopefully they can turn it around. But, once again, I want to cover this because LaSalle has a huge game next week in St. Joe's Prep. It is the SFBN game of the week, and it should be the game of the year for any high school football fan because you see like 2,500 fans out there every year for the St. Joe's Prep LaSalle game, and that's the reason I wanted to cover this because LaSalle, they look very impressive ever since their opening butt whooping to North Penn. They destroyed North Penn. We didn't expect that. No one really expected LaSalle. I picked them as my sleeper pick in the 6A PCL, but they're only lost. They lost their 6'4" athlete who is coming back. I'm not sure his name. I didn't get his name, but I was talking to one of my friends. He is coming back this week. He's a 6'4" quarterback athlete safety. He's better on the defensive side of the ball. And if he hits, he's bringing everything. So that could be a game changer for this Prep LaSalle game, having your 6'4" kid come back. And that's what LaSalle's hoping for, because they're only lost. That kid got hurt. And if he would have stayed in the game, who knows what would happen against that St. Clair team they played earlier in the year.
Yeah, I think you take a look at, let's talk about Roman Catholic first. I mean, Roman Catholic, obviously, they're really big on basketball. They always have been. Speedy Marsh was the coach there for a long time. You know, you're talking about, really a lot of city titles there. And they have state titles as well. On the football side, it's so hard to compete with LaSalle and St. Joe's Prep because they get really great athletes on the football side. And if you cannot compete either, whether it's at the skill positions or in the trenches and the offensive and defensive line, I mean, it's going to be hard to compete. And you take a look at the rest of that Division II, not just Roman, but Archbishop Ryan, your alma mater, Father Judge, Archbishop Carroll. They're all good football teams. Roman's 1-6. They're probably still better than half the teams in the state. And you talk about this game with LaSalle and St. Joe's Prep, which will be on the SFBN Game of the Week. And you mentioned Game of the Year. I think this is the Game of the Year in the state of Pennsylvania. And the sad part about this is St. Joe's and LaSalle will probably play again for the PCL 6A title for the right to go to states. Only one of these teams gets to go to the state bracket. They are probably the two best teams in 6A. Maybe you throw Pine Richland in there, but those are probably the top 3 6A teams.
Well, that's the problem with the PCL, because you see all these good teams. I mean, obviously Archbishop Ryan's not a huge respected football team, but they still have the struggle throughout their schedule, and we see Roman have finally caught up to them. But 5 years ago, Roman was producing athletes left and right. I mean, Wolf Fuller has 6 touchdowns catches this year in 2 games?
Yeah.
And you produce guys like that, inner city kids, and Roman is just struggling to find their groove again after having such success. But once again, I hope they bounce back. But LaSalle is looking very good this year. Such a systematic team. They perfected it, and I don't know how they remain good every single year, but shout out to LaSalle. I'm so excited for this game coming up on Friday.
Well, let's say we look Roman Catholic. You said it, they really fall into a real scoring funk here the last 5 games, while LaSalle is just blowing out teams in the last 5. They're just a beast. LaSalle High School head coach Drew Gordon now ranks 7 in the state. They go to 6-1 overall, 4-0 in their conference. SFBN Game of the Week. The away conference game at St. Joe's Prep. That's Friday the 20th at 7:30. Roman Catholic taking the big loss here. They go to 1-7 overall, 1-3 in the conference. They have an away conference game at Archbishop Ryan Saturday the 21st at 7. Let's take a look at some upcoming games here. Ari, I want to come to you. Greater Johnstown, Bishop Guilfoyle, Trojans now 7-1 overall.
Yeah, I mean, Greater Johnstown with a nice win over Bishop McCourt, but they're going to be taking a whole nother bear on here at both Bishop Guilfoyle. I mean, Bishop Guilfoyle, 8-0 this year. They are number 1 in the District 6 Class Single A. And again, Guilfoyle is the number 1 team here and the defending state PIAA championships at the lowest class level. So, Johnstown with the win, but they're going to need to bring their A++ game against Bishop Guilfoyle in this upcoming week.
Number 50 in PA, Bishop Guilfoyle is at 8-0 overall. Just ironically, Forest Hills, only team that came close to beating them, only allowing BG to win by a 3-point margin. So, Fascinator. LaSalle versus St. Joe's Prep. This is going to be the SFBN Game of the Week. Make sure you catch that on the PCL portal. And we want to chime in on that one there.
Well, the game's going to be at Widener Stadium, Leslie Quick Stadium. So St. Joe's Prep just started playing their home games there this year instead of Plymouth Whitemarsh, which had hosted both LaSalle and St. Joe's Prep. You can imagine these are 2 monstrous football teams, and they don't have their own field. St. Joe's Prep has a beautiful practice facility down near their school, but they don't actually have a stadium. So this will be at Widener, and this is going to be a packed house. And, I think everybody and their mother's going to be tuned into this game. I know Mike Palmer's going to be excited. I think Richie might even tune into this one.
I think I'm actually, I am super excited. I'll absolutely be tuned. We might have to have a station party for this one. This is going to be an exciting game.
It is a monster game. You've got so many Division I athletes on both sides of the football.
This is a monster game. I heard station director Ari Bluestein's going to be buying pizza and just lots of food for the entire staff as we watch this game overall. Is that correct?
Rumors are not true. No.
Well, that's disappointing. That's disappointing.
Can't even label our water bottles.
Really, this is unfortunate. Now, this is going to be a really exciting game. Again, quick statement, it's Friday the 20th. We'll talk more about that in a moment. That about wraps things up for us here on another episode of In the Trenches. A few announcements before we go, though. Make sure to catch so much great content. There are so many other great shows other than In the Trenches on the Sports Fan Base Network, and we want to give a quick shout. I have to start with the flagship show with Ari Bluestein, Varsity Voice. Thank you so much for being here today. This is such a thrill for all of us. And make sure, Steven Schreiber is one of our favorites. In the goal! Guys, do it with me here. In the goal! This is so exciting. Steven Schreiber, Jack Capp, Ryan Haney. Please make sure you tune into In the Goal. We love Steven and his entire crew out there. We just mentioned it. I want to mention it once more. Great high school football game is going to be coming. Number 2, state-ranked St. Joe's Prep. They take on Lasalle. That's this Friday, October 20th. Catch the game on www.thesfbn.com through the PCL portal. As we discussed, it is October. Please show your support for breast cancer awareness throughout the entire month of October. Our charity that we're going to be highlighting this week, Living Beyond Breast Cancer. Please take a moment, visit them at www.lbbc.org. Please be sure, again, to like, share this episode of In the Trenches through Facebook. Make sure that you chime in with great comments during the show. We would love to read those live. Corey Sharp, we miss you, buddy. We hope you get back. That's no slight to Ari here, but we absolutely loved having you here. Thank you so much. But Corey, we miss you. We hope that you're feeling well and that you get back here soon. We will be back every Monday night. Excuse me? Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. I have to look at our station director for this one. But you have to check out our podcast. Forgive me. You have to check out the In the Trenches. Flag on the play. Flag on the play.
It's the ghost of Morelli.
It is. Flag on the play. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I forgot that. Make sure that you check out the podcast for In the Trenches. If you don't have the chance to watch it live, definitely listen to the audio version of In the Trenches. It's just as funny, and I still screw up on the podcast, so it's hilarious. Thank you so much. In the meantime, check out some great content on thesfbn.com. You can look at school information, sports scores, including our broadcast schedule. For Ari Bluestein, for Mike Palmer, I'm Richie Blyways, reminding you to stay classy and be good to each other. Have a good night.